been sharing with you and our viewers throughout the morning about this note investigators say they obtained from that 43-year-old shooter. Our very own John Miller spoke with a law enforcement official who was close to the investigation, who says this note was 2 pages. And the 43-year-old started the note with an introduction saying his name was Anthony McCray. He also goes on to say, I will be shooting up MSU. And he says another team will finish the city of Lansing. But that's not all. There are also targets in that note. So it's unclear if the members of law enforcement that we hear from any moment will talk about these targets. We do know one target was a warehouse, the other an employment agency, a discount store, and a church. As you can imagine, all of this is difficult for folks who are still coping with what happened here Monday night. Alumni who returned to the campus for homecoming, some saying, myself included, never thought they would be back on campus to cover a mass shooting.
John Miller is here with us now. So in terms of that note, I think it's interesting that he said maybe there's a motive in what we saw, but we can't confirm anything just yet. We know what some of the words were in that note. We know that there were locations. How do you, though, based on your experience, how do you read that note?
Well, in the note, he makes himself out to be a victim. He lists 12 targets. He claims to be in charge of a team of 20 shooters. I talked to Mary Ellen O'Toole, the renowned former FBI profiler, who said that's not unusual for a person who's a loner, who's a nobody, to want to create this note, this aura that would give him power and create fear if he went on to hit one or more of these targets and left that note saying there's this army of 20 and I'm in command of it. But other parts of the note, people hate me. They made me what I am today, a killer. No one noticed me. Why do they hate me? I am a person. So he's feeling isolated. He's feeling alone. He's very angry. And when you consider that he did this shooting, escaped the scene, intended to escape the scene, and had a potential list of a dozen other targets where he held some grudge against each one of these places, the employment agency, the store, the fast food place, the church, and 8 magazines fully loaded with 9mm ammunition, 2 guns, 50 other bullets. There's a good possibility that he intended to carry forth more shootings until he was captured.
One important note I want to make there, you said in the note it mentions I have a team of 20. Important that we did just learn, and they confirmed in this update that they do believe he was acting alone. There was no, but just for people who are just joining us, there was no team there.
There is no team of 20. This is part of his attempt to make himself larger than he is. And all of those places were visited by police who said, you were mentioned in this letter, there is no threat and there is no team of 20. But John, asking at the same time, what is the connection, if any, that you might have had to this individual?
Right.
John, as so often following mass shootings like this, we learned that the guns were purchased legally, though they noted they were not registered. He did have multiple encounters with police prior, it seemed mostly for traffic situations, although they mentioned an arrest in 2019 for concealed carry of a weapon. Based on current law, should he have been able to buy a gun legally after an encounter like that?
Apparently, and there's 2 sets of laws here. One is he had to pass the NICS check, the federal background check, to make sure he wasn't a convicted felon, wasn't the subject of any domestic violence order of protection. But then, in Michigan, separately, you have to apply to the state police, give your information. They have to do a separate background check to make sure that there are no prohibitive encounters with law enforcement. And because, Jim, he was not a convicted felon, arrested on a felony, pled that down to a misdemeanor, was sentenced to probation, he was actually, with a limited criminal background, still qualified to buy those 2 weapons, the 9mm High Point and a Taurus C3 semi-automatic pistols.
And that other gun, they say, from that arrest is still in their possession of the Lansing
Right,
Police
they still,
Department.
as ridiculous as it sounds, Erica, part of his sentence was that he had to forfeit the illegal gun to the police department as part of his plea agreement.
John Miller, always appreciate it. Thank you.